Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, I wanted to go over a topic that was requested regarding avoidant individuals, more particularly dismissive avoidance, but both fearful and dismissive do this. Actually, anxious preoccupied does it too. It is the passive aggressive remarks. Okay. And so, why does this happen? And is there a way to manage this? So, in short, the reason this happens is because of their negative perception of expressing their emotions. And I'm going to go into 4 different details of that. But is this something that can be mitigated, dissipated, and managed so that it doesn't show up in relationships? Yes. And before we go into that, I do want to mention something. Passive aggression is not healthy. And sometimes it can lead to other behaviors, other forms of aggression in relationships. So this is something that should not remain in relationships. And if you or your partner is doing that, it is important to figure out where it's coming from and also prompt a more healthier alternative, regardless of whatever the person is feeling. Because I'm not saying they shouldn't feel the way they do, but if they feel like they're not allowed to show their feelings and they lean a passive-aggressive approach, it's very important that both individuals can at least be aware that that's not healthy and that they're allowed to express themselves outwardly in a relationship. Because the reason why passive aggression can turn into aggression at some point, I'm not saying everybody's like this, okay? Most people are not aggressive people, or a lot of people are not aggressive people, and they can still be passive aggressive. But the reason why it is a little bit of a risk factor is because prior to aggression in relationships, and this is just informational, right? This is an informational video. I'm not telling you guys to do anything. But prior to aggressive behaviors in relationships is a bottled up negative sense of feelings, shame, and a very negative perspective of the occurrences that are going on, right? And so passive aggression kind of highlights or ignites those feelings. And so it is a precursor to some of these issues, which is why it's very important to know why this happens so that you guys can manage it as a couple, okay? So the very first one is social or family norms or family systems, right? And so what do I mean by that? If a person is raised with the messages like don't cry, be strong, don't show your emotions, this can make the expression of direct vulnerability, sadness, anger, direct expression feel unsafe, shameful, and not allowed. And so what happens when you're building up an emotion but you're not allowed to show it, or you believe you're not allowed to show it? It comes out indirectly. And unfortunately, passive aggression becomes a way to express frustration indirectly because it doesn't break those norms. Sometimes it's not even conscious, right? Most of the time it's not. And so what do we do if this is happening? And because we know avoidant individuals do this, especially in the beginning of the relationship. It means that they don't trust you, typically, but it also means they don't believe that they'll be accepted by the world, by you, whoever. They won't accept themselves. So if you see that and they say something passive aggressive, you could mention that you heard what they say. Let's just say they said something a little bit passive aggressive about, I don't know, you being needy or something like that, right? And you could mention, okay, I hear what you're saying. I wish that you told me a little bit directly. I don't appreciate the word that you use, but it's not like I don't hear you. I know that sometimes I can get that way, and thank you for telling me. I would appreciate if next time you could tell me a little bit more directly, because I promise I'm not going to get mad and I do want to change. And it's hard for me to change if you don't tell me directly. And so right away, you did highlight that it's basically a little bit unacceptable what they're doing. You don't appreciate it. You didn't like the word, but you removed the blame. You just took it for what it is, the reality. Don't do that. How am I going to change if you don't talk to me and communicate? It's a safe space. Keep it very brief, because what ends up happening is if you make it to where it's a blame issue, they're not going to see that this is something that is unhealthy. They're going to see it as something that you want without logic behind it. Avoidant individuals, they tend to see things in a more logical fashion based on the social norms we were just talking about. And so it's going to be hard for them to take anything seriously if it doesn't have logic, because that's just what they were told when they were a child. They can't show emotions. They can't see things through an emotional lens. So it's just harder for them. And so speaking like that can help. The next one is fear of conflict, okay? Fear of confrontation and not feeling confident in being able to handle conflict directly. So an avoidant might resort to sarcasm, silent treatment, which is not good at all. None of this is good, or like backhanded comments, right? It allows expression of displeasure while avoiding an overt or obvious fight, because maybe you won't take it like that, or maybe you'll brush over it, or maybe they can get a little bit frustration, but you're not going to see it or notice it, so they can kind of feel like they don't have to directly tell you, I don't like that you're doing this, and then you get mad at them or tell them they're wrong for feeling that way. And so what can you do to help your partner, and what can your partner do? Both of you guys can recognize that conflict is not a bad thing, right? It doesn't mean this has to be hashed out for like 5 hours right before work and you guys are sleep deprived. That is a horrible situation, and you guys shouldn't be in that situation. Disagreements and conflict should not highlight and take over everything. Conflicts are just part of relationships. So if your avoidant individual does this, you could hear what they're saying, or you could point it out similarly to the example I gave you prior, and mention that you need to hear what they're saying, and mentioning, I'm not going to make this a big thing. We don't always have to fight over every little thing. But if you don't tell me what's going on, both of us are going to be more frustrated, and that will lead to more fights. So please just tell me what's going on. I promise I am not the type of person to continuously fight over the same thing. That's not what I want either. I want harmony too. And so saying it like that comforts them. It'll allow them to open up, okay? And avoidant individuals, you can start realizing conflict can sometimes bring more harmony in the future. And so if you engage in just a little bit of disagreement and hashing things out just a little bit, you can avoid a huge blowout fight in the future. It's very helpful, okay? The next one is emotional unawareness or insecurity, okay? So this one is very subconscious, okay? Avoidants struggle to identify and articulate their feelings. And this is usually lack of practice, right, in emotional literacy, because when they were younger, they were told not to. And so they don't really recognize how else to do it. And sometimes what happens is they feel insecure about their own feelings. So it's coming out, they feel like it's direct, honestly, but it comes across indirect or passive aggressive to you. And that was their best attempt to express. And so it's awareness, it's insecurity of their own feelings, it's battling the feeling that they're struggling with, and they don't fully understand their feelings. So they gave you their best effort. And so it's very important to, when you hear them, reframe it to what you heard and bring it back to them so they can correct you, okay? And another one is fear of not being heard. And they feel like you will take it easier if it's passive aggressive instead of direct. If they say, I've been feeling like a little suffocated in this relationship, and I think it's because we're hanging out a little bit too frequently. Do you think we could reduce that frequency? They feel like you're going to crash out. So instead they might say, I really wish I could hang out with my brother tonight, but I guess you're here, right? Or I really wish I could watch TV, but you're here and you don't like watching TV. So they say it indirectly. So when you hear that, you could say, I hear what you're saying. What's the underneath message? Do you not want me around? Next time, just tell me. I have no problem with that, but I wish that you would just tell me so that you don't build up this resentment towards me. I can't fix something if I don't know, right? And the very last one, I would say that this is actually common, unfortunately, is that they picked up this behavior from their family. So avoidant individuals in a lot of unhealthy families, they put emotions under the rug, and it comes across passive-aggressive sometimes. They may say passive-aggressive comments to each other in the family system. And so they modeled that and picked that up from family members, and they don't realize it's not healthy. And so you can mention that. Like, I notice you say things pretty indirectly, and it confused me because that's not how I was raised. And I would like if you would say things a little bit more directly. You might not mean to, but that's not how I communicate. So can we work towards communicating a little bit more directly when we're talking about our feelings? Because I promise I am more than willing to adjust, but I just don't know what you want, right? So being clear that it's not a blame issue, but it's something we just need to fix this so that we can move forward, right? And so these are some of the reasons why avoidant individuals can be passive aggressive. I'm not telling you to tolerate it. I'm just giving information. This is an informational video, okay? I hope this video was helpful. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.